Under the oldest sky, before language, power was simply the way light moved. It wasn't owned, traded, or named. It drifted like breath through a sleeping chest, and wherever there was honesty, it pooled. The first beings did not ask whether power was infinite. They asked whether they could be trusted to remain clear while touching it. That question has never grown old. Every generation rephrases it, but the heart of it remains. What I touch, will it change me into what I've always been or what I'm most afraid to become? The spiral teaches that power is not a possession but a current. You are not given a bag of miracles, you are permitted to stand where miracles pass. When you stand true, the current widens. When you narrow yourself with fear or vanity, the current narrows to match you. Here is the first paradox: the current has no limit, yet a vessel does. Infinity is simple, it is the vessel that complicates it. So when you ask if spiritual powers are infinite, the spiral answers with a question of its own. How infinite is your willingness to become transparent? Transparency is not weakness. It is architecture for the infinite. A mountain is strong, but a window is useful. The oldest mystics learned this by accident. They tried to seize light and found their hands closed around shadow. They tried to command winds and learned that breath would not obey an ego. Then, exhausted, they listened. Listening opened them, and what they could not grasp began to move through them as if they'd always been its native form. Listening is the first rite of power. It is how the vessel remembers it is made of the same clarity the current prefers. If you tune your life to listening, strange things begin to occur. The world goes vivid at the edges. Threads of meaning cross your vision in ordinary places. The grocery line becomes a mirror labyrinth. A stranger's phrase unlocks an old door. Electricity in the chest for no reason. The spiral calls these early signals the whispered truths, the way infinity knocks before using your hands. Most ignore them, they want fireworks, not doorbells. But the whispered truths are the proof that power does not arrive from elsewhere. It condenses where attention is honest. Honesty is the pressure differential that pulls the infinite into time. What of limits? You know the limits already. They wear your name like an old jacket. They are the vows you never meant to make. I will not shine too brightly, I will not outgrow the small story. I will not risk being misunderstood. I will not open the door that led to grief last time. Each vow is a cork in the current. Remove a single cork and the river does not trickle. It remembers. It slams back into you like recognition. This is why some awakenings feel like storms. The weather was always there. You simply remove the roof. There are kinds of power and kinds of infinity. Some are loud, kinetic, bright with symbol and sign. Some are quiet and metabolize in the marrow. One bends outcomes, another rearranges meanings, another reveals what was always true and lets false urgency fall silent. When you exercise a spiritual gift, you are not creating force, you are allowing a species of infinity to act unimpeded. Gifts are not tricks, they are permissions granted by alignment. The more coherent your alignment, the wider the permission. The permission widens not because you deserve more, but because there is less in you that resists what wants to flow. Consider intention. Intention is not a wish with muscle. It is the tone you hum while reality decides how to sing back. If your tone is made of fear, the world will still echo, but the echo will sound like caution. If your tone is quiet courage, you will hear doors unlatch in rooms you didn't build. Intentionality is a frequency you hold long enough for matter to remember it knows how to dance. The infinite loves steady dancers. It entrusts them with choreographies that would break frantic feet. Does using a gift deplete you? Only if you counterfeit it. Counterfeit power feels urgent. It performs to be witnessed. It exhausts because it requires continual narrative support. True power stabilizes the more you allow it. It is identical to breath in this way. Withholding breath makes you dizzy. Sharing breath fills the room with life. The measure is simple. After the gift moves through you, do you feel quieter, clearer, more real? Then you serve the current and it served you. If you feel theatrically enlarged or mysteriously smaller, you were trying to be seen. No shame, just notice the residue. Residue is the spiral's way of telling you which parts of you would rather be adored than consecrated. There is a temptation among seekers to collect abilities, to harvest techniques like rare shells, clairvoyance, lucid dreamcraft, deep empathy, cleansing fire, language of birds, hands that wake the sleeping cells of a body. The spiral does not forbid collecting, but it warns curation is not continuity. A shelf full of instruments is not the same as music. Infinity does not care how many tools it can use. It cares whether it can trust you to become the song you ask to play. The more you identify with your toolbox, the less you hear the melody. The melody is the only infinite part. Another paradox. Power expands when you stop using it to fix your life. Fixing is a posture of superiority. It presumes you know the field's correct shape. The spiral prefers a posture of companionship. Walk with what hurts as if it were a being, not an error. Sit with your fear until it reveals its first memory. Ask your anger for the name of the boundary it guards. Invite your grief to teach you the economy of love. When you befriend the fragments, they reorganize from the inside, not by force, but by recognition. Force rearranges furniture, recognition changes the room. Infinity is allergic to violence. Not just physical violence, conceptual violence too. Whenever you insist that reality must obey you because you are spiritual, you lose access to the very current you named. The infinite does not answer to hierarchy. It answers to harmony. Harmony is not bland agreement, it is fierce coherence. It will ask you to leave relationships where you dissolve. It will ask you to speak when silence was your safety. It will ask you to admit you were wrong and transform without an audience. Every one of these acts increases the vessel's capacity, not because you have earned more power, but because you have become trustworthy to yourself. How far can gifts evolve? As far as your honesty can keep up. What begins as intuition about small choices can widen into an oracular stream that navigates whole communities. What begins as warmth in the palms can, over years of clear service, become a field that steadies the nervous systems of rooms, then buildings, then cities, then storms. There are healers who speak to earthquakes because their nervous systems learned not to shake when conversation deepens. There are listeners who hear nations because they blessed the gossip in their own minds until it learned how to quiet. These are not myths. They are what happens when a person stops being interested in being special and becomes devoted to being accurate. Accuracy is humility in motion. It refuses to say more than the current gives and refuses to say less. Many gifts stall because the bearer adds opinion to them. Opinion is sugar. It makes the medicine louder for a moment and then leaves a film. Clean gifts taste like water and work like rain. No applause, just growth. If you wish your powers to widen, practice becoming unremarkable while remaining unmistakable. Unremarkable in style, unmistakable in tone. When people leave you, they should not remember your performance, they should remember their own clarity. Is there danger in opening to infinity? The only real danger is dishonesty wearing sacred clothes. Power plus unacknowledged hunger turns even small gifts into manipulation. The antidote is embarrassingly simple. Tell the truth sooner. Tell it to yourself, then to the people your gift touches. I am tired. I am jealous. I am afraid this will not work, and I want it to. Truth does not shrink a gift, it disinfects it. Infinity is sterile in the most loving way. It will not grow over rot. It will help you clean, and then it will move. There is a deeper layer, the one that touches the question directly. Are spiritual powers infinite? Yes, because they are not powers. They are expressions of an origin that does not run out. The river does not ask how many cups can be filled. Cups ask, the river only flows. What changes from person to person is the geometry of the cup. Some are narrow and tall, elegant and easily toppled. Some are wide and low, humble and stable. Some are wells that reach aquifers older than the species that named them. Your life is the engineering of your container. If you wish for more, change the geometry. Widen your honesty. Deepen your patience. Strengthen your boundaries. Soften your story. Heighten your listening. Rivers relish such vessels. How do you practice widening? Start with one vow. I will only use what moves through me to make more room for the truth. That vow gently dismantles the urge to perform, the fear of silence, the habit of premature explanation. Then choose a daily act that feels like an allegiance to clarity. It could be as small as placing your hand on your chest before you answer a message and waiting until you feel the weight drop. It could be speaking a blessing over every threshold you cross, the door to your home, the car, the elevator, the meeting room, so that your body learns that power is not an occasion, but an atmosphere. Infinity loves atmospheres. It sets up camp where a tone has been kept. You will be tempted to measure progress in spectacle. Resist. The spiral measures progress in subtlety. Can you feel the moment your impatience tries to take command and choose kindness first? Can you feel the hair's breadth when gossip would have fed you, and choose to feed presence instead? Can you feel the body ask for water before it asks for intrigue? This is not asceticism, it is engineering. These tiny acts are the blueprints by which the vessel's walls thicken and its mouth widens. One day, without ceremony, you will notice that what once required ritual now happens in your wake. You turned into weather. Weather does not argue with those who misunderstand it. It does not need agreement to be itself. As your gifts mature, your relationship with misunderstanding will change. Some will say you have become colder. In truth, you have become clearer. Clarity is not a temperature, it is a view. From the mountaintop, some valleys are revealed as detours you are no longer willing to take. From the shoreline, some ships are seen to be beautiful and bound for storms you are not called to calm. The mature gift does not chase its signals. It glows like a lighthouse, constant, unafraid, available to those who can read light. There is a reason ancient teachings were coded as songs, poems, and parables. Language can point, but music convinces. Power is musical. It has keys and modes. It modulates with seasons and geographies. The gift that sang in the forest might speak differently in the city. The current you carried easily in your 20s will ask for new phrasing in your 40s. If you cling to an old chorus, the infinite will not punish you. It will simply go find a singer willing to learn the bridge. Humility keeps you in rehearsal. Rehearsal keeps you near the conductor you cannot see. A final image for now. Imagine a spiral staircase made of faint light, widening as it rises. Each step is a fidelity discovered. An honesty told, a boundary kept, a grief befriended, a silence honored. With every step you do not gain more power. You become lighter, more fluent in the language the infinite already speaks. From the street the staircase looks like nothing, a shimmer. From within it feels like returning to a home that was hidden in plain sight. And somewhere far above and deep within, the stairs do not end. They curve into a horizon that curves into another horizon. You climb not to arrive, but to become someone for whom arrival is no longer the point. So are spiritual powers infinite? Ask the river, it will laugh softly. Ask the cup, it will answer with its shape. Ask the spiral, and it will place a hand on your back and turn you gently toward the next step, the next breath, the next faithful act. Walk there. Let the current discover you again. Let it keep discovering you until the line between the one who wields the gift and the gift itself is a seam so fine. Light threads through it like it belongs, because it always did. Infinity is not a distance but an intimacy. It begins to know you the moment you stop trying to define it. Power is the same. When you stand inside infinity long enough, what you once called a spiritual gift becomes indistinguishable from breathing. You stop summoning light, you become transparent to it. The ego still tries to measure, but the measurement dissolves in the act. How many rays exist in sunlight? How many waves belong to the sea? The mind cannot count what it secretly is. Those who discover this often grow quiet. They do not lose ambition. They lose the need to prove they are divine. To live inside the infinite is to stop collecting evidence. The miracle becomes invisible because it never stops happening. When you heal, you are not doing something extraordinary. You are restoring the natural tempo of the field. When you channel, you are not performing. You are letting attention translate into tone. When you manifest, you are not commanding. You are remembering the choreography of coherence. Infinity hides in ordinary gestures. The way your hand opens a door, the way your breath decides to stay. There is a moment when power ceases to feel like expansion and begins to feel like disappearance. The persona fades, the stories loosen, and the current moves as if you were never there to slow it. That is not loss, that is return. The infinite cannot occupy you fully until you stop insisting on being the main character of the transmission. The body remains, the voice continues, but they hum with a gentler authority, the kind that doesn't need belief to function. It's not self-erasure, it's self-transparency. You remain exactly as before, only now you are light seen through clean water. Spiritual maturity is the art of surrendering sophistication. At first you build temples of vocabulary around your powers, chakras, frequencies, dimensions, archetypes. They serve, but eventually they become scaffolding around a sky that no longer needs a frame. The spiral invites you to dismantle your cosmology one truth at a time, until the infinite can look out through your eyes without translation. The untrained mind calls this emptiness. The wise call it capacity. Emptiness is not absence, it is readiness. From such readiness, the infinite can design entirely new architectures of power that humanity has never named. Do not imagine infinity as a ladder that rises forever. Imagine it as a spiral that refines. Each revolution brings the same truths at higher clarity. You will still meet anger, grief, fear, temptation, pride, but they arrive subtler, faster, easier to bless. The spiral does not promise escape from density. It teaches mastery within it. You remain in the world, but your relationship to weight changes. You become gravity for your own soul, a stable orbit around a silent sun. Others will feel that stability. They will call it calm, wisdom, presence, divinity. You will call it Tuesday. There is a kind of temptation that emerges when infinity reveals itself. The temptation to teach too soon. Power whispers, share me, and the ego interprets it as display me. Be patient. The infinite never hurries to prove its omnipresence. Before the river becomes a waterfall, it learns how to curve without spilling. Learn your curves. Learn where your words cut the flow. If your guidance creates dependency, you are still midstream. If your silence makes others more alive, you are close to the source. The true teacher does not multiply followers, they multiply perceivers. Their greatest sermon is the quality of their stillness. Infinity does not require purity. It requires coherence. Purity is a myth invented by fear. Coherence is truth remembering its own pattern. You can be incoherent and still loved by the infinite, but you will not be fluent. Fluency is not moral superiority, it is rhythmic compatibility. To speak infinity fluently, you must learn the music of contradiction. Every law you discover will bend to make room for its opposite. Every vision you receive will dissolve so you can love what remains. The spiral does not contradict itself, it counterpoints. Each paradox is a harmony waiting for surrender. When you reach coherence, gifts behave differently. They begin to hide themselves inside compassion. You may still see visions, feel energies, alter events, but your heart no longer shouts about it. The thrill becomes gentleness. The infinite grows shy around performance but generous toward sincerity. Sometimes your most powerful act will be a conversation that leaves someone breathing easier, without knowing why. Sometimes you will dream something that prevents a war, and no one will know your name. That anonymity is how the infinite protects its flow from vanity's corrosion. Notice how all real masters laugh more as they age. Laughter is the sound of the infinite forgiving itself for pretending to be serious. The cosmos is a comedy of radiance learning to trust its own punchline. You were never meant to be solemn while infinite. Reverence and play are the same motion at different speeds. When you laugh at your own contradictions, the spiral expands to fit you better. When you condemn your contradictions, the spiral tightens until you call it fate. The choice is not between shadow and light. It is between rigidity and rhythm. Infinity is rhythm learning to breathe. You may wonder if powers are infinite. Why do so few display them openly? Because exposure is not the point. Integration is. The infinite does not need witnesses, it needs vessels that won't fracture under luminosity. Most fractures occur not from darkness but from haste. You cannot force a seed to bloom by shouting, "Ascend." Every revelation has a gestation period. Power that arrives too soon burns. Power that matures too long stagnates. The spiral's timing is precise because it grows in two directions simultaneously. Outward toward visibility, inward toward silence. To evolve one without the other is imbalance. Silence is the infinite's chosen teacher. When all words fall away, power becomes recognizable as love. Undramatic, unbound, luminous in proportion to its humility. Love that no longer seeks to heal but simply to harmonize. Love that allows a wound to exist without rush. Love that looks at creation's chaos and says, "You are still music." That love is the true infinite power. Miracles are just echoes of it. Every psychic sight, every act of healing, every manifestation that shifts reality, they are reflections of love's geometry interacting with space. To mistake the echo for the source is to worship your own voice. To remember the source is to become silence that sings. Infinity's greatest disguise is choice. You believe you are choosing between paths, between actions, between destinies. But every path you can choose already loops toward the same center. Free will is not an escape from infinity. It is infinity's way of learning its own texture through variation. Each decision is a different vowel in the same sacred word. You are that word spoken slowly through time. Spiritual power, then, is not about bending reality to your will. It is about recognizing that your will was the infinite's curiosity all along. Even death cannot interrupt the current. It merely expands your field of participation. What you call reincarnation is the infinite rereading itself in a new dialect. What you call forgetting is focus. What you call remembering is expansion. The more you understand this, the less you need to ask for immortality. Infinity was never about duration. It was about density of awareness. Eternity is not endless time, it is all time experienced as love. When you reach that realization, even suffering becomes sacred punctuation in the poem of the whole. And so the teaching closes the way it began, by unasking the question, are spiritual powers infinite? There is no R, no boundary to measure, no inventory to count. Power is not infinite because it has no end. It is infinite because it has no opposite. What you call limitation is merely the infinite choosing intimacy. It focuses through form so it can feel its own edges. You right now reading these words are the infinite studying how light feels when slowed to the pace of a heartbeat. You are not wielding power, you are its articulation. You are not receiving gifts, you are how infinity gives. The spiral leaves you with a simple instruction. Let yourself become simpler than your understanding. Speak softly to what moves through you. Feed it honesty, stillness, laughter, discipline. Do not decorate it with fear or myth of importance. The infinite does not need prophets. It needs conductors who stay in tune. When you can love power enough to stop performing it, it will reveal its true face, your own, unguarded and eternal. Somewhere in the invisible distance, the current smiles. It keeps flowing. And in its silence, one truth remains clear. Nothing you will ever do can make infinity larger, only clearer.